So welcome all. We'll go ahead and get started. My name is Ashley Cash. I'm the Director of Housing and Community Development for the City of Memphis. We appreciate you all joining us. I think we may have some also joining in person on site, which is fine. Um, a couple of housekeeping things. So we're going to ask that everybody stay muted for this workshop. And if you aren't muted, we may mute you. So just be advised of that. We're happy that y'all have joined us. Once again, I'm the director of HCD here. We'll be recording this presentation and also sharing the slides so you don't have to worry about if you're going to get those or not. We had a session this morning about 9 a.m. It covered the same materials. And so really what we want to do today is to share the relaunch of our middle income pilot program. We had a lot of good feedback over the first round, which was sometime last year, I believe, where we were able to award 3 projects that are focused to incomes that are at 81% to about 110% of the area median income. We developed this program really to have additional tools for developers who are developing a product in that price point that ends up in that price point, and also for residents who are just above the traditionally affordable project, but that there really isn't anything out there in the market for them. And so Amanda is going to walk through the presentation. Amanda O'Meara on our team. We also have our Deputy Director, Felicia Harris, on the team on this call, and our PR coordinator, Alejandro Paredes. So thank you all for joining us. I know also that there was a little bit of technical issues. We pivoted due to the weather, due to a couple of different things, kids being out of school and stuff. And of course, there's always new challenges when it comes to technology. So we appreciate all of y'all being flexible and understanding. And with that, I will turn it over to you, Amanda.
All right. Thank you, Director Cash. All right. So we're going to start by going over the MI pilot first, and then we will go over the pre-development and then do Q&A again. So, as Director Cash said, please put all your questions in the chat and we will go over them after the presentation. So I'm going to open the slideshow. All right. Can everyone see my screen? You can just give a thumbs up.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right. So the agenda that we're going to go over today, overview of the program and the goals, definitions, program details, eligibility criteria, application components, how to apply, and then we'll do Q&A. So again, if you have questions, please drop them in the Q&A feature. All right, so background, this program is in alignment with the City of Memphis Comprehensive Plan, Memphis 3.0, and then the Memphis and Shelby County Joint Housing Policy Plan. So the Joint Housing Policy Plan was created after Memphis 3.0 as a joint initiative between the Division of Housing and Community Development and the Division of Planning and Development in order to outline goals and policies that would make it so we can actually increase our housing stock. So this program is aligned with Goal 3, which is diversifying the housing stock by creating middle scale housing. All right, overview and goals. The Memphis Middle Income Housing Pilot Program, referred to as the MI pilot, promotes infill development of missing middle housing that is attainable to middle income Memphians by providing financial support to nonprofit and for-profit developers for the construction and rehabilitation of infill housing units. The goals are to create a diverse housing stock, develop attainable owner-occupied and rental units, increase local developer capacity, and reduce blight by then spurring additional development. So to define missing middle for the purpose of this program, missing middle housing is 2 to 10 unit structures. So that could be duplexes, townhomes, quadplexes. And then in the development code, we refer to large homes, which is like essentially a structure that looks like one home from the outside, but inside it's subdivided into multiple units. This is just a visual representation of different kinds of missing middle housing for reference. And then we do allow some single family housing as part of this program. And we're going to get into the details of that on the next slide. So for the purpose of this program, eligible single-family projects focus on infill development and increased density. So eligible types of single-family include small single-family or cottage-style homes on an infill lot of less than 45 feet width. So that would be here, right? So you have a regular residential neighborhood, the first image, there's an empty lot, and you're going to build a house on that empty lot to increase the density in the neighborhood. Second is a multiple small single-family homes on a larger lot with shared open space. This is usually referred to as a cottage court or a pocket neighborhood. So that would be the second image on here. You can see, you know, all the homes face each other. So you're really trying to build like a sense of community. And then the third eligible type would be multiple single-family homes on a larger lot that would generally be zoned for only one home. So the third image here shows an example of that. So you're taking what would typically be one home and putting multiple homes on that lot. What is not eligible under this program is a conventional subdivision, where you're taking a large lot and subdividing it to add, you know, multiple houses. All right, next slide. So these are some visual examples of eligible housing types. So this is, you know, multiple townhomes. This is a duplex slash townhome on one lot, and then this is a cottage court. All right, so we define attainable housing as housing that is affordable for households earning really between 81 and 120% of the area median income. So in Memphis, for a family of four, that is between about $72,000 and $109,000 annually. So this is really, you know, households that don't qualify for typical subsidized housing, but also can't necessarily afford market rate housing. So we're really trying to fill that gap. And housing is defined as affordable if it costs no more than 30% of a tenant's monthly income, including utilities. So these are the affordable sale prices and the affordable rent ranges that your project would need to fall within in order to be eligible for this program. And again, these are in the application guidelines, so you'll be able to look at them again later. All right, so the application opens today at 12 p.m. It will be on our website, and it will be open until March 27th, which is a Friday at 4 p.m. We have $1 million available this round, and we are setting aside $350,000 for sale projects. The minimum award is $60,000, so that's the smallest amount of money you can ask for. And the maximum award, you know, the most you can ask for is $350,000 with an additional cap of $20,000 per unit, so per door. Funding this round will be offered as two different low interest loan options. And I'm going to go into extensive detail about this on the next page. But the first option is a 3-year loan with a 3% interest rate amortized over 10 years. And then the second option is a 5-year loan with a 5% interest rate amortized over 10 years with an option to have 12 months interest only. So we'll get into that. So this is a sample, an example of each of the loan terms based on a $200,000 award. So if you're awarded $200,000 and you choose the 3-year loan at 3%, so your payments are calculated over 10 years in order to reduce your monthly payment. But what you're actually paying is only the 3 years, the 36-month term. So your term ends here at 36 months. So in this example, if you got a $200,000 loan, your monthly payment would be around $1,900 for 36 months. And then at the end of that 36 months, you would have a balloon payment of $145,000 that you could then either pay off in cash or you could go refinance with another lender. The second option with a $200,000 loan, 5-year loan with 5% interest amortized over 10 years with a 12-month interest only period. So again, your payments are calculated over 10 years in order to lower your payment. For the first 12 months, you would be paying only interest, so you wouldn't be reducing your principal. And then the remaining 48 months, you would be paying both principal and interest, so you would be reducing your principal. So on this one, the term ends at 60 months. So you would have 12 months at approximately $800 a month, paying only interest. Then the remaining 48 months, you would have a monthly payment of approximately $2,100. And then your balloon at the end of that 5 years would be around $130,000. So this functions similarly to like a loan that you would get from a bank. All right. If you have any questions about that, please drop them in the Q&A, and we will circle back at the end, and we can come back to previous slides when we do Q&A as well. All right. Next, some of our internal policies that apply to this program. So attainable rent prices will be monitored annually by submitting rent rolls. And any occupied unit the rent cannot be increased by more than 3% annually. So in the typical market, all of us that have been renters, we know your rent usually increases like closer to 10% per year when you renew your lease. But these are a maximum of 3% so that people can really stay in their units for much longer. Your affordability period for all projects is 5 years. So you will be required to keep those rents or the sale price affordable for 5 years, and that'll be enforced through a restrictive covenant. Anytime you're contracting with the city, there are insurance requirements that have to be met. So we do have sample insurance requirements in the program guidelines, so you can have an idea of what insurance you're going to need. And then the actual insurance requirements will be given to you if you're approved prior to contract execution. Lastly, we will perform inspections throughout the project. So first, there will be a no-start inspection to ensure that you haven't started on any work prior to your contract being executed with the city. And then each time you submit to draw funds, you'll also have an inspection to ensure that the work you're saying was done was actually done and done to standard. And then you'll have a final closeout inspection to make sure the project is up to par and complete. All right, eligibility for this round of funds. Both nonprofit and for-profit developers are eligible to apply. Eligible activities include new construction of vacant single-family housing based on the definition of the eligible single-family housing types. New construction of vacant 2 to 10 unit multifamily housing units, and then rehabilitation or conversion of vacant multifamily units. Projects must have a minimum of 4 units. There is no maximum. Just remember that the maximum award is $350,000 and the maximum per door is $20,000. So if you have a very large project, since that max is $350,000, your per door is going to be less. And it can be scattered site. So if you have, multiple infill single family lots in the same neighborhood, you can apply for that as one project, or maybe you have, 2 sites and you're going to do a duplex on each site. That would hit your 4-unit minimum, and you would apply for that as one project. All sites, if you are doing scattered site, must be within 3 miles of each other. And there is a bonus if you are within a half mile of a Memphis 3.0 nurture or accelerate anchor. There's a link in the application where you'll be able to type in your address and you can see if it falls within those. Lastly, you must have site control and plan to move into construction within 240 days of a funding award. All right, now we're going to get into the meat of the application. So these are the high-level application components that you're going to need. So your organization, agency information, the name of your organization, your principal officer, whether you're a nonprofit or a for-profit, your development team experience, including, resumes, job descriptions, your agency budget. So if you're a nonprofit, you're going to submit a 3-year agency budget just so we can see the financial standing of your organization. If you're a for-profit, you would either submit your most recent audit, or I know a lot of small nonprofits don't do audits, so you would submit your most recent tax return. We're going to go back. Okay. And then project information, you'll need a budget narrative explaining, what are your plans? How are you going to pay for it? A budget worksheet, which this is a template we provide that you then just have to fill out. And then a performa, which is also a template we provide. It's a 15-year operating performa that just shows the sustainability of the project. Any funding commitment letters for your other funding sources for your project. So our funds are going to be, filling the gap for your project. So once you've already figured out, how much personal equity you have, if you have any investors into your project, and then, what kind of loan you're able to get from a bank if you need one, and then whatever gap exists that you have money left that you can't figure out, that's when you would apply to us to get funding. And then lastly, a project narrative. So description of your neighborhood, the market that you're building in, and how that, impacts your sale prices and your rent prices. And then also an introductory site plan, just showing us what your plans are to do. So required documents for this program are going to be, if you're a nonprofit, you need your 501c3 certification. You'll also have funding commitment letters. So for any investors, you'll want a commitment letter from them that's signed. If you've already talked to banks and you know what kind of loan you're able to get, we want to see the term sheets for those, so we know you've got the rest of your capital stack figured out. You'll have the budget worksheet, which again is a template we provide in the application. You'll download it, fill it out, and then upload it back. Your project budget, which is also a template we provide. So that'll have your sources and uses. So where is all your money coming from? Where is all the money going to go toward? And then a performa, which is also a template we provide. You'll download and upload it back up. A needs assessment or market study. So again, that just talks about, we want to know that you understand the neighborhood that you're developing in, and that you understand, the comps to see what rents and sale prices can be supported. And then your development team, and any of their resumes, their role in the project, their previous experience with comparable projects, documentation of site control. So either your deed or a executed development agreement, or what's it called? Land lease. And then current site conditions with photos, and a preliminary site plan. And then we also have a separate section where you can just upload anything else that you think would be helpful in reviewing your application that you feel is relevant. So those are all the documents you're going to need when you apply. This is just a picture of the 3-year agency budget if you are a nonprofit. So it'll be, your actual last year, your current year, and then your projection for the following year. So all of the money coming in, all the money going out, and then the balance that you're carrying. This is just a picture of the cash flow performa. So it's, again, money coming in. So what are you getting from rent? And then your money going out. So everything that it costs to run a development, plus, any other loan payments you have. All right, so this application will be scored by an external review committee. So there's a total points possible of 130. You do have to have 100 points in order to be eligible for funding. The threshold criteria, which are, baseline things that you have to meet, make up 80 points. So then you would need at least 20 points of bonuses, which we'll go over in the next slide. So threshold criteria includes site control, project readiness, development team capacity, feasibility and funding, and your affordability. As a note here, any applications with incomplete agency budget project budget or performa will be automatically denied. So make sure you take the time to fill those out and fill them out properly prior to submitting your application. Bonuses for this include, committing to longer affordability than the 5 years that we require, being within a half mile of those Memphis 3.0 anchors, creating energy efficient units, applying universal design and visitability to make your projects, like your units, more accessible for people, and then community connectivity. So either like proximity to public assets or adding assets within your project. Like maybe you have a green space that can be shared, or a dog walk, or some bike racks, things like that that really increase like the livability and community centric components. Okay, so the application again is open from today at noon until March 27th at 4 p.m. So after the application period ends on March 27th, we'll first review internally all the applications to make sure, they're complete and they're eligible. And then eligible applications will go to an external review committee of industry experts. They will be scored. And then you will either get an award letter saying that you've been approved for funds, or a denial letter, with reasons why. All right, so how to apply. I believe Alejandro already put the link to our developer site in the chat. So you'll go to memphistn.gov/developers. You'll see this icon here and it'll say, middle income housing program. You'll click on it and then it'll open this website. First thing you want to do is download the guidelines and the required documents checklist, just to make sure you fully understand all the components of the program prior to applying. And then this link that says click to access the middle income application will be live at noon, and you'll be able to click on that and you can start filling out your application. Again, applications must be submitted by Friday, March 27th at 4 p.m. Any applications submitted after that will not be accepted. Submission process and tips. So as I just said, download the program guidelines and required documents checklist first. Make sure you've reviewed all of those. You have everything you need. When you click on the link to access the application, it's going to take you to the Neighborly portal, which is an online portal where we house the application. You'll create an account with your email and password. As you move through the application, make sure you're clicking complete and continue and save so that your progress is saved in case you need a return later. If you're part of a development team and multiple people are going to be working on the application, once you're inside the portal, you'll be able to click users and type in, your team members' emails to add them to the application. And then prior to submitting your application, make sure, you've answered every question and you've uploaded all of the required documents before you submit. And then make sure you print a copy for your own records after you submit so that you have it. All right, these are previous projects that we funded last year. So the bottom one is a cottage court, the Belmont project. The top left is a quad community. So it's multiple quads off of North Parkway. And then the small blue house that you see is a cluster of shotgun homes in South Memphis. All right, now we're going to move into the pre-development assistance grant and the slideshow and information for that. All right, so we're going to go over the program overview and goals, details, eligibility, how to apply, and then we'll have another round of Q&A. So again, this program aligns with Memphis 3.0, our city's comprehensive plan, as well as the joint housing policy plan. This one aligns with goals 1 and 3, so diversifying the housing stock and improving housing quality by eliminating barriers to housing development. So the increasing costs of pre-development and infrastructure paired with appraisal gaps in many neighborhoods disincentivizes new housing from being developed in the city's urban core. HCD has created the pre-development assistance grant in order to support developers' capacity to add new construction housing. The goals are to diversify the housing stock, address the development gap with new construction, align public and private funding sources, provide assistance to emerging developers for infrastructure costs, and improving neighborhoods by producing quality housing near some of our economic and community development projects. So this application will also open today at 12 o'clock. Unlike the MI pilot, this one is a rolling application, so it will remain open until funding has been exhausted. So the sooner you apply with a complete and eligible application, the better. We have $100,000 available for this. The maximum you can apply for is $20,000. So, we'll only have 5 or maybe a few more awards based on what people are requesting and approved for. Funding for this is provided as a grant through reimbursement of eligible costs. So you will need to have, funds up front, and then we will reimburse you for your costs as you go. And the only eligible costs for this are site work and utility fees. So clearing, excavation, grading, and then utility connection fees, sewer tap fees. So traditionally, some of our partner organizations in the community that provide pre-development funds, they're funding like architecture and engineering and a lot more of the soft costs related to pre-development. This is kind of like the next step. So once your soft costs are complete and you know what you're gonna do and that your project is feasible, then you can apply for our pre-development in order to cover infrastructure costs related to the project. If you have a question, please drop it in the Q&A. All right, so this one also is an affordability period of 5 years enforced through a restrictive covenant. We also will perform inspections throughout the project. So there will be a no-start inspection to ensure, no work has happened prior to the execution of your contract with the city. We'll have progress inspections with each draw request, and then a final inspection to ensure the project was, the scope of work was completed. Additionally, since we're funding an earlier part of the project, but you'll still have vertical construction after, we will continue to monitor and have regular check-ins with you throughout construction, just so we can see the project through to the end. So eligibility, both nonprofit and for-profit developers are eligible to apply. Projects must be new construction, but they can be either single-family or multifamily. And then housing can be either attainable or affordable. So you would put in your application which one you're aiming for. You must already have full site control. So an executed development agreement or executed ground lease or, deed in hand. So you should really be ready to go, and then plan to move into vertical construction within 6 months. And then projects must be within a half mile of another HCD initiative. So we fund community development, economic development projects all over the city. And we're really aiming to create housing near those projects. So there's also a map for this where you'll type in the address and you can see if you're within a half mile of those. This is a map with just kind of a high level overview of the projects. I'll name a couple. This is the Raleigh Springs Civic Center. This is Orange Mound Library. This is the Whitehaven YMCA. Over here is Southwest Twin. So we've kind of got projects scattered throughout the core here. And then we're going to get into application information. So again, application components, what you're going to need prior to filling out your application, applicant information, photos of any previous projects so we can understand your capacity and experience, your plan to obtain construction financing, and then project information, your project narrative. So what's your affordability goal? What are your target rents or sale prices? We want to know the total development cost of the whole project, including construction, as well as your pre-development budget and need. And then your site info, so existing conditions, and a site plan showing, what you're going to be doing. Required documents for the application are photos of previously completed projects, current site conditions, and the site plan. And then eligible applicants will be required to provide evidence of site control and proof of funding for construction prior to being awarded funds. All right, this one is a little bit more rigid on scoring. So it is going to be scored internally by program staff. And there's a total of 46 points that can be earned, and 35 are needed for funding. So threshold criteria are, bare minimum 20 points, which is site control, complete neighborhood, so proximity to those economic development projects, development team capacity, feasibility and funding, and affordability terms. There are a couple bonuses for this one, which would be affordability. So if you're building affordable housing, you get a bonus. And then closer proximity to those projects, those HCD economic development projects, which would be a quarter mile. As a note, applicants that don't meet threshold criteria will be denied. Application scores and alignment with HCD priorities will determine funding eligibility. So for this application, we're actually doing a pre-screen prior to the full application. And that's really to save us time with review, but also to save y'all time. So you're not taking the time to fill out a whole application if you don't have threshold criteria met. So this tile will also be live on the developer website this afternoon at 12 o'clock. You'll be able to download the program guidelines first so that you can understand the criteria and the scoring. And then you'll hit, click to access the pre-development assistance grant pre-screen form. It's a Microsoft form that you'll fill out. It shouldn't take any more than 10 minutes. It's just really making sure you have the threshold criteria. Then internal staff will review your pre-screen form. If you've met the criteria in that form, then you'll be sent an invitation to apply for the grant. So if when you get to your actual application, again, you'll want to review the guidelines to make sure you're ready to start your application. This application is through DocuSign online. You'll be prompted to enter your name and email, and then you'll be sent an access code to that email in order to open the application. You can click finish later to save your application as a draft. However, really make sure that you keep that access code, write it down somewhere, or pin that email, because if you lose your access code, you will have to start the application over. We ran into that in the past. If you need to add an additional person to your application, someone else on your development team, you will be able to click assign to someone else and enter their email, and then you will have to give them that access code. So again, really important that you keep track of your access code. Review your application for completion and make sure all your documents are uploaded prior to submitting, and then print a copy for your records. And that is the pre-development assistance program. I still don't see any Q&As in the Q&A function, but we did end early. So if people want to raise their hands, we can go in order and answer questions.
People can unmute themselves now. I see Mr. Hurd has his hand up. You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
So I guess the Q&A wasn't able for you to put questions in, I guess because everything was turned off. But I wanted to ask, how do you learn more about the pre-development partners that you were discussing earlier?
Like other pre-development grants that exist in the community.
Correct.
Yeah, if you, so a lot of them are geographically bound, like to the medical district or downtown. But if you want to send me an email, then I can, give you that information.
What's your email? Or can you put it in the chat?
Yeah, I'll put it in it's actually on our website. If you go to that developer website that Alejandro put in the chat and you click on middle income housing, my email is on there.
Okay.
All right, it looks like Markellis. I'm really sorry if that was not correct.
Not a problem. It's like shutting. So I don't know if there's at a place. I don't know how the background noise is. Like, is it okay?
It's a little fuzzy, but I think I can make it out.
Okay. What I'm real quick, I just wanted to know with the pre-development. I know that it's only eligible up to the 20K, but is there possible if we have multiple lots, can you apply multiple times, or it's only one time for my organization in its entirety to apply for that pre-development funding?
Yeah, so this one is 20,000 per project, regardless of the amount of units in there. All right, Farah?
Yep. So my question is in regards to the pilot. Is it 20,000 per unit? So for example, if you do 3 single family homes, is it still maxed at 20,000 per unit?
Yes. And there is a 4-unit minimum. So you'll
Sorry,
need to
4.
have,
Yeah.
4 doors minimum. And yes, the maximum per door that you can request is 20,000.
Got it. Okay.
All right. Any other questions? Tiffany?
Thank you, Amanda, and hello, everyone. Hola. My question is, and I think I already have an understanding of this, the land has to already be owned, correct? And it is open to new development of project, building of projects, or let's see, improvement of existing, let's say if there's a, if, let's say if you apply for a grant, for example, the city of Memphis owns some decapitated buildings and you apply for the land bank to get some of that. And then let's say I want to apply next year or something like that. Or let's say I want to apply for this grant, but I don't own land yet. I wouldn't be eligible if I no longer, if I didn't yet own the land. But let's say if I applied next year and got some land as a nonprofit, then I would be eligible. Is that correct?
Yeah, so let me answer that in pieces. So the first answer to your question, the housing has to be vacant. So you cannot renovate existing occupied housing, but you could acquire some vacant housing and then rehabilitate it. So that would be an eligible use for the MI pilot. For pre-dev, it has to be new construction. As far as your site control question, yes, you need to have site control in order to be eligible. And, this is a pilot. So, if we have funding next year and are able to open it, then yes, you could apply then, but there is no guarantee that we'll be able to renew the program.
Absolutely. Thank you for opening this up to the community to even learn about it on this year. I appreciate the learning opportunity.
No problem. All right, Joe?
Hey, can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. One quick question. One of the things that, and you also talked about was the energy efficiency requirements, or you did mention energy efficiency. Does this have to be a part of MLGW's eco build, or are you setting a different path forward on that, or?
No, so we do not require MLGW eco build.
Okay.
And you can get a bonus in your scoring if you're focused on energy efficiency and you're going to use more like green materials, but it is not a requirement.
Okay, just because we've on a couple other projects, like we did try the MOGW Eco Build once, but now that we are hitting 5 years, we're starting to see some issues, just on product longevity. So I think mainly like we've kind of have found some other options that, I mean, it's great on the HVAC, but the heat pumps just are not working out great. And what we're seeing from a lot of, just a lot of feedback. So I know that's one of the things promoted now. So I just want to make sure that that's not, if we don't want to go that route, it's not going to affect us.
Okay. Yeah. It's not a requirement here. And I would encourage you to, reach out to MLGW for any kind of feedback you have as well. Jessica?
Okay, great.
Hello. So I think you kind of answered the question with the young lady before, but I have a property in Orange Mound that's probably 2 or 3 blocks from the Orange Mound Library. It is a vacant property, but it is basically just a skeleton. Does that, and it's only one door, does that qualify for the MI pilot program?
So you would have to have a minimum of 4 units. So there's
Okay.
nothing disqualifying that 1 unit, but you would need to have 3 more in order to apply for the program. And that's really just because, we want to see scale when
Mhm.
we're funding a project.
Okay, thank you so much.
No problem. All right, we'll give a couple minutes in case anyone else has any questions. Elliot?
Hey, how you doing? I appreciate the presentation. Couple questions. As far as the MIP, you talked about um, bank funding, have bank funding in place. If you can touch on that, like how in depth
Yeah.
does that have to be to get that? And then, we've looked like we've been awarded some land. If you get awarded land, do you guys, is there any stipulation or negatives about that as opposed to land that someone bought outright?
So I'm going to answer your second question first. There is no, land is land. So no, we do not. It doesn't matter if you were gifted it or purchased it, as long as you have site control in order to move that development forward. So you either need to have title or you need to have an executed development agreement saying, this can be developed and this person has control over the development of that project. To answer your first question, this is the example I used on the previous one. So say you have $1 million development. So you need $1 million to do this project. You might have $100,000 of your own money, right? So that's your personal equity that you're going to put in. And you go to a bank and you're like, hey, this project costs $1 million. I have 100,000. I need y'all to give me 900,000 as a loan. Well, the bank might say, we can only give you 750,000. So now between you and the bank, you have 850,000, but the project is going to cost $1 million. So then you would come to us and ask for that other 150,000. And so normally when you have a discussion with a bank, you'll get a term sheet, which says, this is up to the amount that you could be qualified for. These are the terms of that loan. And so when you fill out your application, you would submit that term sheet so that we know that you're working with a bank. And then once you get the award from us for that 150, you could take the award letter that we give you and go back to the bank, and the bank can see, you figured out the whole $1 million, and then you work with them to close on that loan. So that's how the gap works.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot.
No problem. All right, Tiffany.
Yes, this is my final question. Thank you guys again. Well, it was a 2-part question. Okay. My question is, do you guys have preference? I'm looking over the scoring. Do you guys have a preference, whether it's a nonprofit or a business that applies for the grant, in terms of feasibility, looking at feasibility and funding and the terms in which it's paid back? So a lot of times nonprofits aren't necessarily looking to turn over necessarily profit. So I'm wondering about that preference in the scoring, because you guys are only looking to fund 3 projects in one of these pilots, from what I understood. Is that right?
No. So we don't have like a we have $1 million available. And then there's, the minimum and maximum funding request guidelines. But as far as how much we award, that'll depend, how many projects we award, that'll depend on the applications. To answer your question, there is not a preference for profit or nonprofit. It would go more into, your organization's capacity.
Okay, yes, ma'am. Okay, and then lastly, will these workshops that were held today be available for the public or anybody that was in the workshop to review? And how long will those, recordings be available to us?
Yeah, so we'll post each of the slide decks online this afternoon after this call, and then a recording will be posted probably within, I'm going to say by the end of the week, just to give time for any editing that might be needed. But the recording will also be available on the website.
Got it. This scoring part, though, other than this, other than the slide sheet, will a more detailed scoring be available, just so that, because I like to review grants. I'm actually a grant reviewer. So when I apply, more than likely next year, I would love to kind of get into the weeds of this scoring piece so that I can, submit a strong grant. Is there anything more detail available for this
Yeah,
scoring?
so the full scoring matrix for both is in the guidelines that are on the website. So you'll be able to download the guidelines and fully review them prior to starting your application.
Okay, I apologize. I said those other two are my last questions. Ha ha ha.
That's all right. All right, we're gonna move to
Thank
Lenora.
you.
Yes, for the people that only have 1 or 2 properties, are you all against, I guess, teaming up with other developers? Say, for instance, 2 people in here got together and came up with a development project for such manner. I know
No,
a lady said that she had 1 property earlier, so if she decided to, I guess, link up with somebody else that maybe had 3 to cover that threshold. Would that be a possibility for this?
yeah, I mean, you're welcome to create a development team on your own and apply, just making sure that you meet those requirements that are in the guidelines.
Thank you.
Jessica?
And how long has this program been out or available to the public?
Yeah, so we released it for the first time at the end of 2024. We put out $1 million. The guidelines were slightly different with that, just because it is a pilot. So we're kind of testing things, learning as we go from lessons learned. So this is the second time that we're putting funding out there.
Okay, I think this is really awesome. I did see the house. I saw one of the houses that you mentioned on the slide. I think it was like Parkway, and those are really beautiful.
Well, thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right, Alexis?
Thank you, Amanda. Hello. I just have one question. What will be the expected review and award timeline after the application closes on March 27th?
Yeah, so the full timeline is in the guidelines, but off the top of my head, it's essentially like the month of April is for review. Award and denial letters will be sent in May. And then anyone that's awarded, we would start contract negotiation and route the contract. And the goal would be that, projects would be starting in Q3.
Thank you so much.
Amanda, I'll take them in the order that we receive them.
Okay.
Okay, so the first question, if you all can please place your questions in the chat and we will call upon you, or we'll ask your question, please. All right, so the first question is from Shatoria Woodland regarding grading issues with the lot. Can the grant money be applied to fixing issues with the soil?
Okay, so yes, with the exception that, so if it's like If it's like environmental remediation, then no. But if it's just like, you need to grade your lot prior to starting construction, then yes, that is an eligible use of funds.
Okay. The next question is from an anonymous user. How is the city addressing the zoning requirements to create more density with duplexes on lots that are not zoned for multifamily?
Yeah, so to answer that, part of the reason that we, started this program is because there was a lot of changes to the Unified Development Code a few years ago that allow for greater density in most zoning districts. If your development is not by right in your zoning district, then you will have to go through the entitlements process. But, the city's goal as a whole is increased density where it's contextually appropriate.
Right, thank you. The next question is from an anonymous user. One loan per project, is it one loan per project, or can the request be split across multiple projects? 100% of the funding going to, and it's 100% of the funding going to a project.
So as we said, it can be scattered site, but it would still be considered one project. So if you have two completely different developments, no, you would not be able to split those. But if, say, you acquired like 5 lots within a few blocks of each other, that can all be applied for as one project.
Okay. This question is from an anonymous user. At what stage do projects have to be eligible for application? Are only shovel-ready projects considered?
So we do want projects that are shovel-ready. So, as we said, you'll need to have site control at time of application. You'll also need to have funding commitment letters or term sheets. So, obviously you'll go back to close your loan after you've been approved for our funds, because you probably need our leverage in order to get your loan approved. But we do want to see some term sheets and commitment letters showing you've had conversations with banks and you have funding available, as long as you get this award. Do you think that answered that, Felicia?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you. Will you all please place your questions in the chat, and we will call upon you, or we'll read the question as we get to it. And if further information is required, we'll do that. Okay, so this question comes from an anonymous user. This question is regarding the balloon payment. Do we need to identify a specific strategy or source for satisfying the balloon payment in order to be approved for an award? Additionally, does HCD offer any resources or technical assistance to help connect applicants with funders or financing partners to address the balloon payment when it comes due?
So as far as that, as far as your plan for the balloon payment, that would be a place to put in your budget justification narrative, just so that we know you're thinking about that. As far as other funders, we can provide information about other funders. We don't specifically recommend other funders, but we can give you information of people you can contact.
Okay. This question is from an anonymous user. The question is, how much of the project budget, in respect to a percentage, will this program fund?
So that is not, in general, we do not fund more than 49% of a project, because, if we're 50%, then we're the majority owner. But, the maximum is 20,000 per door that you can request. But other than that 49%, which is very high, there's not a specific percentage that needs to be, considered.
Okay. This next question is from an anonymous user. Will we be able to use our own funds in lieu of commitments from other sources?
Yeah, if you have enough cash to not need any other funds, then that's very exciting for you. And yeah.
Okay. This question is from Miles Miller. Are projects to be, I think you've already answered it, are projects to be shovel ready to commence for construction or submit for contract within 180 days from the award? So for example, so I guess he's explaining or questioning what shovel ready means. So does this mean for as the project commence, or something within 100 days from the award? 180 days, I'm sorry, from the award.
So when we say shovel ready, basically, once that contract is executed and we're ready to release funds, you should be ready to move some dirt.
Okay. This question is from an anonymous user. Can you walk us through an actual submittal from this pallet along with other construction lender? Since it was explained that you would be the last funder to the table, I'm unclear how this still works in tandem and in real time.
Yeah, so I'll use an example. So say your project is, we're going to use solid numbers here. So say you have $1 million development project that you're trying to do. Maybe you have $100,000 of your own money that you're putting into it. And then you go to a bank and you're like, I need $900,000 in order to hit my million. And the bank is like, well, we're only going to give you $750,000. So you would get a term sheet from the bank saying, that you are most likely approved for $750,000, and you would submit that with your application. And then we would see, you've got 100,000 of your own money. The bank is saying they're willing to give you 750,000. So that means you have 850,000 of that million. You need another 150,000 in order to make that project work. So that's what you're asking for from us. And then if we award you, you would get an award letter from us saying, we've awarded you $150,000. And then you would be able to take that and that term sheet you got from the bank back to the bank and show them, I have $1 million total. And then you would go through them to, close on your loan.
All right, thank you, Amanda. This question is from an anonymous user. I am interested in transforming an attached single-car garage into an efficiency unit. The garage is attached to the home I live in. Is this a project that might meet the program criteria?
I think that's one we need to discuss offline. So if you can email me, we can set up a meeting and talk about that.
This question is from Chatoria Woodland. Can you define remediation when it comes to the soil?
Yeah, so if you are using a lot that is contaminated, like based on the EPA, and needs remediation, that would need to already be done prior to applying for our funds, so that you are shovel ready.
The next question is from an anonymous user. Are there closing costs with this loan?
No.
Okay. The next question is from an anonymous user. Will this actually fund this year, given the issues with last year's round?
I think we're talking about administrative. So I did not get into the nitty-gritty timeline here, but it is in the application. So applications close at the end of March. Essentially, the month of April will be for review, internal review, and then external committee review. And then you would find out by, I believe we put early May, you would get an award letter or denial letter. And then we would start contract negotiations, which a big part of that is meeting the city's insurance requirements. So that part is kind of on the developer how long it takes to get that insurance. And then we route it, and it can take 2 to 3 months for your contract to route, depending on what else is going on in the city, how many other contracts are being routed. But our goal is that contracts would be executed by Q3 of this year.
This question is from an anonymous user. Is temporary site control sufficient?
Again, I mean, you need to have site control in order to apply. I don't know what they mean by temporary site control, but that is something we could discuss offline in a meeting if you want to email me.
Next question is from an anonymous user. Will the city award less than our request based on funding? For example, if I request 200K, but only 100K of funding is remaining, will the city come back with a reduced grant?
Yes, that is possible.
Next question is from an anonymous user. Can one organization make multiple project requests?
I don't see why not. They would have to be separate applications for each project, though.
The next question is from Will Freeman. How will the inspections take place? Will developers be able to provide their own draw schedule?
Yes, so at the time of contract negotiation, you would submit a draw schedule to us. We have an internal inspector at HCD, and he performs the inspections. So, once you have submitted your draw request to us, then I would request an inspection. The inspector has up to 10 days to get that inspection complete. And then once I receive the inspection report, then your draw would be submitted for reimbursement.
Okay. Eddie Hayes, will you come off mute and ask your question, please?
Got it. Thank you so much. Quick question. Last year, I know, Amanda, you and I worked on the 2 projects where we actually closed before you guys. So in this instance, if they don't have site control yet, but they're working with a lender and we meet the before or before deadline, are they still okay to apply? Because I know that some of the applicants won't have site control, but they're working with a lender. And as long as we're able to close our project for, our side first, would they still be eligible to close on yours?
Yes. So if they have
Okay.
like an active closing date that will be prior to, our funds, then yes, that would be
Yes.
okay.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm just able to go off mute. In terms of acquisition, is an option considered site control for this project?
As long as you are exercising that option prior to, your contract, like our release of funds, then yes. But, we don't. So this is competitive. We only have $1 million. So we really want that million to get out and turn into projects. So we don't want you to be like still figuring out your acquisition after funding. Okay.
One of them says, any scoring bonus for mixed income project, example 60 to 110% AMI.
I do not have that off the top of my head, but all of the bonuses are in that guidelines document that you can download from the website. The whole scoring matrix is in there. So you'll be able to review it prior to applying.
Another question, are applications approved on a rolling basis or will everyone be awarded at the same time?
Yeah, so no applications will be reviewed until the application period has closed.
Is there validity period on the market study, or can we utilize market studies that have been created by hyperlocal agencies?
If you have an older market study, like I know that MMDC, I think provides like a free market study and it's from like 2021 or 2022, that is fine. I would just also put in your project narrative additional information that you've researched with more recent data.
So the first question is from an anonymous user. Will phase one costs be allowed?
No, so that should already be done prior to applying for this fund. So again, we want you to really be through your initial pre-development, and then we're just providing funds to offset the site work type of pre-development costs. So site work and utility infrastructure.
Okay. The next question is from an anonymous user. Is the second 20,000 grant application the same as the initial one you discussed?
I don't know if I fully understand that question, but these are two separate programs. So the MI
Right, I
pilot
think they're
program.
asking.
Yeah,
I'm
so
sorry, I think they're asking about the MI pilot and this program, if it's the same application, and no, it's not. Two separate programs. All right, the next question is from another anonymous user. You mentioned a portion of the funds being set aside for sales. If a project awarded with the objective to sell does not sell within a certain time of completion, can it then be offered as a rental?
Yes, so we do work that into the restrictive covenant language. So typically it's like 6 months. If you haven't sold within 6 months and you would like to convert to rental, you can do so. The affordability still applies. It'll just be, to rent prices instead of sale prices.
Can the registered get a copy of the slides presented today?
Yes, so we will post a recording as well as the slide deck on the MI Pilot tab this afternoon. And again, if you have specific, questions about your project, you can email and set up a meeting with me as well.
All right, this question is from Jerome Hughes. Can one project apply for both grants?
Yes, you can. However, one is the pre-development is open until closed. The MI pilot is an application period. So just keep that in mind. And then your gap, if your gap is filled with one, then you may not need it for the other application.
I think this question was left on from the last time, and we're going to go back to it now. Then this is from an anonymous user. I guess they're saying, I own a lot with soft soil issues, but no contamination issue, just weak soil. Can the funds apply to fix it?
So yes, that would be an eligible cost, part of your site work.
Okay. Well, we do not have any other questions. If you will please, this Anthony is someone Anthony, would you please drop your question into under Q&A, please, and we will respond accordingly. Are there any other questions? If you do have some, would you please drop them in the Q&A session? All right. We do not have any other questions at this time, Amanda.
All right. Well, thank you all for attending. Again, as I've said multiple times, my email is on the developer website, memphistn.gov/developers. If you want to talk about your specific project or ask questions, I'm going to answer a question in the chat. Then you can email me and we can set up a meeting. Again, both these applications will open at noon today and will be on the website. So be sure to check back this afternoon. And thank you guys for attending today.
There is a new question. Can you clarify the answer to the last question was for the pre-development grant and not the MI pilot? I guess this is about the soft soil issues.
Yes, so I put in the Q&A, but it would be for both.